Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Zwift Community Live broadcast of the Dig Deep Coaching Stage number 5 Grand Tour. Following along with the Tour de France, critical moments for winning on the day. Today I'm joined again by Stephen Gallagher from Dig Deep Coaching, and we've got a few riders out there, regardless of the fact that already on the Facebook post we got people telling us that it's coming home. But regardless of that reality, there are some people joining in with us, which is good to see on the day. I'm going to be bringing these guys in here just a moment. Now, for some reason, our avatar is not enjoying picking up the power on the day. We'll see if we can get that fixed for all you guys, so we don't just have a 0 up at the top of the screen there. We did turn on the broadcasting of the ENT Plus here. We'll see if it does fix for us, but we'll be able to follow along with the workout regardless of whether or not my avatar is faking it or and making it. Steven, tough race today out on Zwift, not on Zwift, but it's going to be tough for them simulating the race out there today. I mean, I'm looking at the left-hand side of the screen, and I'm seeing a lot of red for the workout here, and I think that might have something to do with there being a lot of red in the stage today as well. And I just was hoping that maybe you could give us some insight into what Stage 5 today was all about for those viewers who are either now spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the tour. Okay, so be ready to be talking about the tour, but let's first talk about what they were looking at today, and then maybe like what the suffering was like through some of these climbs and why this was a crucial stage.
Yeah, well, today, again, spoiler alert, we are going to talk about the stage and who won it and how the race was rode by many of the riders. So as you see here on the stage profile of the Tour de France, it was the first real hilly day. Anybody who watched the stage today or has seen any of the highlights will have seen that it was lots of ups and downs. Outside of even the categorized climbs, it was really twisty. It's quite steep climbs. They were all quite short. There was a lot of changes in pace, and also it was a very long, drawn-out finish. So the climb to the finish line in Quimper was basically a drawn-out sprint for the last sort of kilometre and a half. So, whenever I was looking at this stage, a month ago, whenever we were actually sort of trying to devise and sort of, preempt what was going to happen, thankfully we probably got it quite close in the sense that it was going to be, very aggressive, and also with lots of different small punchy climbs, like it's littered all across, Western Brittany where they're racing today. They're very steep, especially at the bottom, and they're quite short, especially the early ones, but the climbs get longer as it goes along. So what we've done today is we have looked at very specific cadences that is actually very reflective of the efforts which we're doing during the day, or that was doing during the stage. And then we are going into at the very end, trying to get really ramp up them efforts as we go along, and sort of going towards the finish line as well, that sort of long, drawn-out sprint. So we're looking at real low cadences in the bottom of the climb, 65 RPM. Then we're exploding over the top. Today you're going to be a climber, so you got to find your climbing legs somewhere, and then you're going to be going your long, drawn-out sprint towards the end. So, so it's going to be a bit of a hard day.
Yeah, so they did finish on well, maybe not a mountaintop, but it was a good climb that they did finish on today. Yeah. And so after, it looks like 3, 4, 3, 4, 3. Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 3 threes and 2 cat 4s. So, but a lot of times you look at a stage like this, and I think people are like, no big deal comparatively to like the cat 2s, cat 1s. But I think there's enough of them on the day that. And the types of climbs that were there today, I think it was a little bit different than usual, and really painful day, really painful from what it looked like. The course was just littered with riders falling off It seemed like, but so looking here now again, I'm trying to get the power to broadcast through. For those who are unfamiliar with the way that we run this, we are in workout mode. Up at the top of the screen, the power that should be being shown would be the power from the rider that is currently riding. That would be me if I were riding. Usually we are able to broadcast the power on through, but we're unable to do so for some reason, some sort of technical issue right now that I'm unable to figure out. So we're going to have to deal with the 0 at the top until I can figure that one out. But we are in warm-up mode right here, right now. For those of you just tuning in, we are doing the Dig Deep Coaching stage number 5 for the Tour de France. And the warm-up is the usual warm-up, lots of high cadence, up into 360s. Let's talk a little bit about why there's a 10-minute at what looks to be Zone 3 at the start of the actual efforts. Yeah.
So, because if you look at the profile today, the climbs don't really start after about 100 kilometers or so, something in around that. So, by the time the riders are hitting a lot of the big climbs today, they're already a little bit fatigued. So they're pretty, it hasn't been that easy. So we're going to try and ride in at Zone 3. We don't want to bust all your bulbs too early by doing too much, but we certainly want to get a slight wee bit of fatigue in the legs before we hit them first early climbs. And then once we finish that 10 minutes, we're going to move into 3 climbs. So they're going to replicate the sort of 3 of the smaller climbs from today. They're going to be a total of 2.5 minutes long. The first, I think the first minute and a half is going to be at a steep gradient, so we're going down to about 65 RPM, and then the last minute we're going to explode over the top. You're really going to change your torque. You're going to really change your fitness, even your technique. For those of you that can't get out of the saddle, make it aggressive, going over the top. You're hanging on to the group, or you're hanging on to an attack going over the top. So there's 3 of them 2.5 minute climbs to kick off the real climbing part of the day before we move into the final. So
yeah, it looks like on the downhills then we're doing Zone 2. Is that to hold on to whatever kind of break that might have been established?
Yeah, so there's very little rest today. I mean, again, anybody who's seen the stage today will know that between the climbs was very twisty. Probably a lot of short, sharp sprints. The guys coming out of they were going through wee small villages. It was there was very little rest for the riders today. So in between the climbs, we have in the early part 3 minutes at around Zone 2 in them early phases. So it's not totally off. It's not total recovery. We're still riding a bit of a tempo. You're holding the group before we kind of move on to the last bit of the day. So which is the hard bit.
Yeah, it looks like, this doesn't look easy to begin with, though. So now you are seeing on the left-hand side there a little failed there. So those who are unfamiliar with maybe workout mode and how it works, you get little stars for every time that you do the section of the workout correctly. And if you don't do the section of the workout correctly, or you do it okay, you get half a star. And if you fail it by not holding the wattage correctly, so even if it's a recovery interval and you go over that wattage, right? Everybody's like more is better. But if you don't recover correctly, you'll still even get a failed. So my avatar is going to fail all day long, just so you guys know, holding 0 watts per kilogram. But the program's pretty cool in that, there's this little bit of a game to it then, where you're trying to earn the stars throughout. There's 26 total intervals that you're trying to hold these wattages for, and it kind of helps the time pass by a little bit too, trying to earn each segment of the workout, I find as well. So real quick here, we do have a couple comments coming through. Actually, right off the bat, we had Chris Bayless jump in here. Before we even went live, he was already chatting at us, and I have a feeling he's not here any longer because his first words to us were, "Have fun, guys, but it's coming home." So I appreciate the comments. If you do want to interact like Chris did, you can do so like always. Tweet at us at ZCommunity Live, as well as comment on the Facebook. I'm also watching the Mixer chat as well over at mixer.com/Zwift Community Live. Dan Fleeman, of course, says, who won today? Who would have predicted that? I think I did. I think I predicted that yesterday. No, so I jumped on the Fleeman train yesterday, and we are currently going pretty good on the percentages here. We had the TTT. I think there was only one that we got incorrect so far. So that's 1 out of 5. I think we're at an 80% rate at this point, actually, for predictions on stages. So tune in every day for your Tour de France predictions. We're going to see if we can keep this going. If we can even get like having already 80%, it's easier to hold on to that rather than try to gain if we were already behind, if we were at like 20% or something. So we're doing pretty good already for the Tour. So let's go and look through here at what's happening next, though. Okay, so we are in the 10 minutes. So this is that section you were saying where now it's kind of a steady grind up to the climbs, though. It looked like it is like there isn't an immediate Cat 4, but there is kind of this. I'm seeing, what is it, the Corée? Is that what it is in the Saint V?
Through the that sort of between 60 and probably 95 kilometer section there. It's pretty draggy in the way to it before you start hitting these early climbs at 1.5 kilometers long, around between 1.5 and 2
so the
kilometers.
pack isn't like going to be at this point. The pack isn't going to be really attacking, but they're going to be ramping up the pace, looking for position. Like people are constantly be looking for position, so that they don't find themselves. I mean, how important is position before you hit the bottom of a climb? Like really, is it huge?
Crucial, absolutely crucial. And today we're obviously sort of looking at more specific on the actual climbs, but a lot of the workouts we're going to be doing later in the weeks, we're actually the intensity before the climbs, or even before the cobble sections when we're doing the cobble day, is going to be more intensive than the actual cobbles or the climbs itself. Anybody who's seen again the stage today, they'll know that the risks some of the riders were taking and the pace that was being set before they even hit the climbs again was pretty impressive. So it's pretty solid out there so today, and you'll notice probably a similar scenario tomorrow if anybody's watching Tour de France tomorrow. Again, it's on similar roads again. So
again, we're up to 95 RPM, so a little higher than what is usual to 85 to 90. So it looks like a 5. I mean, in that 5 RPM actually matters. Like you do feel that if you're not used to it, that's for sure.
Yeah, and some people don't go out of the comfort zone a lot of times. They're very used to sitting in their sort of 85, 90 RPM kind of area, and don't venture too far up or too far down. Today and also tomorrow, and like a lot of other rides we're doing in these next couple of weeks, we're really putting you out of your comfort zone and really replicating again what the riders are doing, what the course was like today. But also it's great for your own ability and certainly for your own getting out of the comfort zone and pushing your limits a wee bit with your torque, obviously with your strength, and building areas potentially that you've never worked on before.
So one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is like the specific intervals that are being done today. These ones are a little different than the ones that we've seen in the past, that we've seen you put together in the past. Like these ones were specifically designed around the last time the Tour came to this specific stage, to these roads. And how did you go about that? Because that was an interesting story you told me.
Yeah, so what we did, I mean,
it was the 2004 stage. I can't remember which stage it was. I believe that was the one you sent me, I thought. Maybe not.
Yeah, so there was the last time the stage, the Tour de France finished in here was in 2004, and I think it was a similar finish than it was today, and they also came across a lot of similar roads. But there's actually a lot of racing in this part of the world, particularly a race called the Tour Finistère, which is in April time every year. It's one of the biggest, it probably is the biggest one-day race in Brittany, one of the big races in France. I unfortunately had the pleasure of riding it, 10, 15 years ago. Won't tell you how old I am, but yeah, they are pretty solid. So so I went and kind of looked at the guy's Strava. Obviously nowadays a lot of people are putting their rides on Strava, and so I've seen a lot of the power profiles and the times that the guys were doing it at, and sort of put it into an average. Certainly these early climbs, like today we just recently I was looking at Michael Valgren's data that he put up on Strava just there in the last sort of half hour or so, and like there was one of the climbs there, Côte de Trumère, where he done it in 2.5 minutes, and the other one, Côte California, was again like another 2 minutes 15, and these early climbs, what we're doing, are 2.5 minutes long, and this is what we're trying to replicate. Obviously, we can't have the full durations, but some of these climbs we're looking at is doing them, the quite short durations, and again, quite sometimes if you're wanting to
what's the
attack
difference? What is the difference between the durations that you've put in here and maybe the durations of what these climbs are, like how long they are the riders are going at them for? Because the reality is like we need to make a workout in Zwift that is going to be doable for a large amount of people that want to jump into here and not spend 3 hours on the bike here. So how have you cut it up, and how did that make sense for getting similar benefits?
Yeah. So on a lot of the shorter climbs, obviously, a stage like today and like a lot of the stages, it's near impossible to get all of that information or to do all the climbs and to do all the total durations of the climbs, because your workout's going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours long. So what I've done today is I think I've made a total of about 4 climbs and then 1 finishing climb. So we've taken 3 of the smaller climbs and I've put that down into an average of about 2.5 minutes per climb. And whenever we see that a climb is normally about 1.5 kilometers long to 1.7 kilometers long, which is what the stages were today, we're looked at, them sort of durations for that, for these early climbs. And then we hit quite a long climb. It's called the, I'm gonna say this wrong. The Côte de Mené-Quilch. You see it there. Yeah, it's about the 160
the number
is
3, the Cat 3 there, about 159.5.
Yeah, that there. So that I looked at that. Quite detailed in the. It was in the race manual there about a month ago, just before the tour started. And the middle section was very steep. So the actual middle section was substantially steep. So what I've done is I've put that into the workout today. So I think that's our 4th climb today. And you'll see that we're in yellow. We're kind of in threshold at about 95% of your threshold, sitting at a sort of average cadence about 85 or so. And then for 1 minute on that steep section, we got to go really deep. So we're going up to 110% in the middle of the climb. And we're dropping our cadence down to 65 RPM. So that's again replicating a real surge in the bunch on that steep section. On that climb, the climb is in total longer. So I think it's 3.5 minutes long on that climb compared to the other, shorter climbs, which we were doing at 1.5 minutes. And then
so that's when we get into, let's see here. So I'm seeing one. I'm going to go over to it with my cursor here for everybody. So the first 3, but then this is the one you're talking about, the Côte de... our French is just...
Côte de Mené-Quilch.
Mené-Quilch, gotcha. So that is the second to last climb, it looks like. There's one more and then one more after, and then the last climb. So
and then there's the last climb to finish. Yeah.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of suffering here in this workout. And what would you classify this workout as far as like what kind of a name would it have? It seems like a high intensity VO2 type workout is what we're aiming at a little bit more.
Yeah. I would actually some of the
over under.
No, I would more look at it as about explosiveness. And
okay.
more about being explosive, and actually what's quite common and what we see in a lot of race analysis and data that we see is that ability to change from one cadence to another quite quick and to change your power. And it's that change of torque and that change of cadence from one to the next in quite quick successions can be the difference between holding on to the bunch and not holding on to the bunch. So this is very different to somebody changing their, power. We're obviously changing the power as well, but it's how you apply the force to the pedals. And again, going from 65 RPM to 100 RPM, whatever it may be, in a short space of time, plus changing your power, can really wreck people more so than just riding at 10 minutes at one really hard sustained effort. So us doing this today is certainly going to help you adjust that as well, and that is a real critical part of racing, especially anybody doing sort of open road racing, racing on short hilly circuits and whatnot. It's stuff like that is really important. So yeah, I would actually simulate quite a lot of these types of efforts with some of our clients, and even myself when I want to hurt myself a wee bit.
Yeah,
Feel
the change
sadistic.
up is interesting. It's definitely an interesting, like you were saying, the ability to punch over and over again. It's
Yeah.
from almost a threshold or just a little bit under or right around threshold, and then punching out of threshold,
Mm-hmm.
and then and coming back a little bit,
Absolutely.
and then punching out of threshold and coming back a little bit over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's not a workout I'm actually really super familiar with. It almost sounds like, you know,
Yeah.
in training you can get really tunnel vision a little bit, I would call it, on this zone, that zone, that zone, that zone. And that's what we're working on, and only that, rather than having
Yeah.
these change
Yeah.
ups, like you're saying,
Absolutely.
and even a middle ground to be working on some things that are crossing over between zones. So pretty
Yeah.
cool, and it seems like it's a little bit more applicable to what actually goes down then in real life. It has some real life application to the race situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And these sorts of workouts, I mean, obviously we're replicating, we're kind of replicating a race, but doing stuff like this, changing the torque quite a lot, as well as obviously the power, is something I would use when we're getting into real race specifics. Now the duration of these efforts would change greatly depending on the final aim. Whenever we work with a client, we obviously work with what is their final aim, what is the characteristics of that event, and building that into the sessions, looking at what somebody's weak on and what somebody's strong in. But what you're seeing here today, this type of intensity and how we're changing these torques and how we're changing the cadences, is pretty typical of what we would do quite a lot. And I think certainly if you look at the stage today, go and watch the highlights of the Tour de France stage today, and you'll probably feel a bit sympathetic with them, going, "Yeah, I know what that feels like now because I've just done it for the last hour on Swift." So
So going up and over the
yeah,
top now, we have now a 210, and after kick now that 330 was a punch over the top, try and get a gap, and it
yeah,
seems like we're playing an attacking role on the day too.
yeah. Yeah, so these here, what we're replicating is, either holding on to a group over the top or trying to accelerate over the top. So, again, we're not in the early break. We're trying to stay in the front group. Everybody's being shelled out the back as the pace goes up and goes up. It's normally over the top of climbs, okay, that most of the splits are made. So it's just going over the crest of the climb and starting to go over the top is whenever you've really got to dig in to keep on the wheel, either to attack or to follow or to keep on the wheel. So that's what we're replicating. So you go the steep bit, you're riding a solid tempo to, it's 10%, 9%, and then you've got to change that to attack over the top. So that's what you're just after doing. So you have another two of them to go, thankfully.
Yeah, not just two, but then it doesn't get any easier after that. That's for sure. It definitely doesn't get
No,
any easier.
no.
Then it's kicking 285, which is a little less, starting a little quieter. It
Yeah,
looks like on that next
yeah,
one
and
after
then
that. So we do have a little bit of power you sent on over today. What are we looking at here for some of these? There's a couple of screenshots you
um,
sent over, and maybe
yeah,
chat a little bit. Are we into any of those climbs yet? Are we?
yeah. So
What are we
do
looking
you
at here
have
for the data?
if you look at maybe the Côte Tremere, I think it's about a 2.5 minute effort.
Okay, let's see if I can find 2.5 minute efforts here. Oh, none of the power files have anything really on them for descriptions here. Let me see here
Oh,
if I
for
can.
yeah, they're just all screenshots.
Yeah, it's screenshot. But I mean, that's fine. We can take a look at the. I do have the one that has Lennon Climb. Is that actually a part of this course here? They named
Yes,
something
yeah.
different for some of these.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so on Strava, some of them were a bit different. I think that's one of the longer climbs. But if you bring it up anyway, I'll be able to
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
look
So this was from. So
and
we
see. So
usually we get our data from Training Peaks from the day. But what happened with that today? Like the riders just had to travel
yeah,
far, probably.
yeah, so they've got a bit of a transfer to the hotels, and again, the fact that they finished maybe a bit later than usual as well, and we're on a bit earlier. It was a bit of a shorter time frame to actually get the data through. So I'm trying to look at the average power for that. There was 414 for 2 minutes 44. Is that correct? Am I
Yeah, yeah.
seeing
And
that?
who are
Am
we
I seeing
looking at
that
here?
right?
Whose power numbers are we looking at here?
So, so this is Michael Valgren from Astana, the winner of Amstel Gold this year. It's a bit of a route that probably would have suited him today. Unfortunately, I think he was riding for his team leader. But I mean, you see here the way obviously the power sort of going up towards the top. It starts pretty hard, the acceleration at the start, and then it ramps up obviously as it goes along. So again, it's a 2 minute 44 seconds long. Again, very similar to what
Only
we're doing at two and a
244.
half.
Okay, so I thought these climbs were going to be a bit
Yeah.
longer than that. So you are
No, no.
actually getting
So
something pretty close to what these
yeah,
riders are doing over
yeah,
these climbs.
yeah. So all them climbs are pretty similar to about that duration. So they're all 1.5 kilometers long. 1.7 kilometers long. But one thing I haven't put in here, which most of you will probably be happy about, is the 20 or 30 small kickers that was littered the whole day. It was just up and down all day. So outside of these normal categorized climbs, so yeah, which made it even harder for them guys.
So we're getting the updates. We were almost talking about bringing in. We're almost talking about having the footy, the soccer. We call it soccer over here, but we get the
Yeah,
football game on our phones here and talking about that at the same time because, of course, even Dig Deep Coaching's in here saying that England scored after 5 minutes. So obviously, the talk
right.
of the town here right now. We're 15 minutes into the World Cup as well. So we're
Okay. Yeah.
as we're going. Well, how far into this ride? We're 32 minutes into this ride, and I bet a few of the riders. You know what's funny? I only see one UK flag and one Wales flag here. So I wonder if Norman has it up on screen right now. Quite a few German
Yeah.
flags. I don't think they are in it, right? Ooh, I should probably just be quiet right now.
Oh,
So
yeah. You should don't talk.
sorry, Yansky, Geis, and the rest, guys. Just messing, just playing, just having some fun. Just having some fun. I could probably get lynched for that one, so I should be really careful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these guys, one more
But
of
yeah.
these smaller climbs. Looks like later on, we're missing two of the intervals here. Is that final climb? Is that the final kick though at 390, or is there even more at the end of that interval?
The one which one, the one we're on now, or no, the one at the very end, 390. No, that's the end of it. So we're replicating a big long drawn out sprint. So that 30 seconds we ramp up with 2 minutes, then another 2 minutes. So we ramp 2 minutes 100% of FTP, another 2 minutes at 104, 105% of FTP, and then that's the part where we're going to hit the bottom of the climb. Then we go to 1 minute at 110, and then we go to 30 seconds to 130. So it's a long, drawn-out effort. You probably shouldn't be able to sprint maximal at the end of 30 seconds. If you did, you should be with Peter Sagan, but who won today, just in case anybody doesn't know that. So yeah, it's a long, drawn-out sprint, and again, anybody watched the stage will have seen somebody like Greg Van Avermaet, who went really early. I think also
That was
Philip
one of our
Gilbert went
predictions.
with
Actually,
about
that was your prediction yesterday. Was yeah,
didn't
Greg,
win.
and wasn't quite able to make it happen. Went super early and maybe petered out a little bit because it was too long.
Yeah, yeah. I think Philip Gilbert went with about 700 meters to go, and then Greg Van Avermaet went with about maybe 400 meters to go, 300 meters to go, and again it was just them guys was just a long, long, long effort. So and then obviously Sagan and Colbrelli, I think, or I'm not sure who it was. That was second Colbrelli, but yeah, it was they had really the only guys that actually had a big punch in that last sort of 100 meters. So again, we're trying to replicate. It's a mount up, mount up, mount up, and then a long 30-second sort of effort. So that's what we're trying to do today. So you've just got a couple of climbs to negotiate first.
Just a couple, just a couple to negotiate here. So looking through, we are going into climb number 3 of these shorter, punchier climbs. What about, so tomorrow we've got something similar. And let's chat a little bit about what's going on tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be on Zwift's Facebook too, so we're going to have a lot more people, I think, hanging out in the broadcast. Similar workout to tomorrow. Now, back to back like this, for somebody who doesn't quite have...
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fitness level or whatever. I mean, we took an easier day yesterday. It wasn't quite as hard. And, you know, do you suggest people coming back? And obviously we're doing a full, you know, tour here like this. Now, the way that this whole program is designed, it's not going to hurt people to keep coming back, like, and doing these day after day.
Yeah.
Like, what's your opinion on all that? You know, people are going to be thinking about rest and how they should be interacting with each of these stages and whether or not they're going to do the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, these sorts of days like today and tomorrow, back to back, are going to be pretty hard. You know, by the time you get to Friday, it's going to be really difficult. So, you know, you're going to want to probably look at either, you know, maybe taking tomorrow off, or, you know, for those of you that are obviously doing tomorrow, you know, make sure that Friday's maybe a bit of a easier day. I do know we have people here that are doing all the 3 weeks. They're preparing for bigger events ahead. And you know, total admiration to all you guys that are and girls who are out there doing it. Like I say, we've a couple of prizes for people at the end of it because they're going to deserve quite a bit for that. But what I would say is just make sure that your post-ride care is really honed in. So by that I mean your nutrition, your hydration, both during and after the ride. Also how you're looking after yourself with an airflow, your core temperature, keeping it down as much as possible during the rides as well.
Oh, that's a great point. You know, we talk a lot about nutrition. Why is it that they're not doing heat training is important, essentially, is what you're saying? Like, don't do heat training during these intervals, because that, I mean, and I've done that before. I've been in situations where I'm doing intervals, normal, what I'm used to, but then I add heat training on top of it, and then it's just like, you don't realize how much of a drain that actually is on your body. Even though it's not like muscular intensity work, it's a whole different kind of work that drains you almost not in a different way and more, because it depletes all of the basic resources that your body needs.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, whenever you are you know, really hot and you know you're sweating a lot, your sweat rate's going up, your core temperature's going up, you know, your blood plasma can go down, so you know your blood thickens a lot. Your heart needs to beat more to get that blood around, because it's, you know, your blood plasma's going around. So if your heart's beating quicker just to try and move the blood around, then, you know, there's not as much, it's a lot harder to get it going to the muscles and for your muscles to be activated. So, you know, and your oxygen distribution. So, you know, trying to keep cool and trying to keep you know, that airflow coming is absolutely crucial, and especially if you're doing this day after day. So just be really careful of that. You know, it can also feel a bit claustrophobic for me anyway, whenever you feel like it's so warm and it's in your face. It's certainly not it's not nice for the motivation as well, whenever you're feel like you've got a swimming pool below you at the end of it. So
and also, like, for these super high intensity intervals, I would also, from my experience, there really isn't a lot of reason to do heat training with these. The idea for these kind of intervals is to get the most power that you can out of it, right? And if it feels easier on the day, right, you do have, like if you start cooling and you're not used to cooling and your FTP was set off of not using a fan and maybe even AC in the room. I mean, when I'm doing my intervals, I got an AC unit and a box fan, okay? And then a third fan over here blowing on me to cool me off as much as I can, right? And if you did your FTP test off of that and all of a sudden you start cooling, you're like, whoa, I have more power, you're actually creating more muscular stress than you were before, right? Like you're literally doing more power, just like you would be lifting more weights or whatever it is because of a different change in your environment and your body state. You can just push this little button in the lower left-hand corner and up that suffering. Just bring it right on up so that you're getting the most out of your muscular stress, because that's what these days really are all about. They're not really about that a more basic foundational heat, what heat training would get after, which is a resource thing, right? Like that's about resource management and teaching the body to be as good with the resources as it possibly can. Whereas this is like, how strong can you be?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, heat training, you know, trying to get your body adapted to performing in different, you know, different temperatures and whatnot. I think if you are going to do something like that, you know, you need to do it at certainly a lower intensity before you start trying to even consider doing it at this level. A good friend of mine, a guy called Shannon Connolly, who's the exercise physiologist for one of the Institute of Sports in Australia, works with a lot of the top, you know, amateur under 23 riders down there, and you know, they're doing a lot of heat acclimatization for guys going to Europe to compete at World Championships and stuff. And again, there's a real similar scenario. They're using heat chambers, but it's a very gradual sort of going into intensity and, you know, ramping the effort up. So don't make that mistake of you know, putting that extra stress on you whenever this is hard enough. Like we're on the longest climb of the day now, so you definitely don't want to be in too much pain going into this. So we're just starting. This is the bottom of the climb, the longest climb of the day, before we come to the finish. So you've got a minute and a half in around this here and around your threshold before we go into a very steep 1 minute hard effort. And at that point, that's where you've got to hang on to the group whenever the accelerations are going to go. At that steep point is normally where a lot of the attacks are made. So you're going to have to quote the Menzies Quilch. So, you know, that's where we're going to have to sort of really make that move and dig in deep. So make sure you get your cadence right, make sure you get your power right, and just concentrate on that 1 minute to get through it. But after that, it's not over. So, but just get through this first 1 minute. So.
Yeah, this is the only time, though, that there's going to be a little bit of reprieve. And do you see that actually in the pack? That, like, okay, this last climb is over, and now we're just looking at a finish climb, really. So, like, everyone kind of chills out that made the group, essentially. And that's why the group comes back together, maybe even after that section?
Yeah, steep descent off it, and then, you know, just trying to sit on, recover over the top. And then because this climb is so difficult, and because I didn't want anybody to not, you know, puke their guts up at the end of that last 30 seconds, we need to rest up a wee bit so we have that big power. So let's get through this.
It looks intense. It looks like an intense 5 minutes, actually, full on. That's almost like a 5 minute, almost getting onto a Gorby type interval, actually. So this is going to be a full-on race effort at the end of a lot of climbs here. Ken Holly, actually, he's actually in the coming out of New Zealand here. For those of you unfamiliar with Zwift that are watching over on Mixer or any of the other channels that don't usually watch Zwift Community Live, these are all real riders that we're watching go through the suffering, that we're just watching do the suffering. Maybe one of these days I'll jump on and ride them, and you can just coach me through it. That might be a good idea. I actually have a little bit of a sore throat today. I was actually thinking about doing today's, but my wife was out doing some music stuff and singing on microphones with somebody else who had picked something up and brought something home. And now I'm like, no, I got to stay good. So we're not jumping on the bike for anything hard today. But Ken is letting us. Ken's letting us know out of New Zealand here that he's got he's got 3 screens up right now. It looks like. So he's got the Zwift. He's got the broadcast, it sounds like, and then he also has the football game on. So looks like he's watching England. So, but he's coming out of New Zealand. So I'm wondering who he's rooting for.
Who's he supporting
on the day? Who are you supporting? That's the most important part. Who are you supporting today? Besides our predictions for the tour, what's your prediction for the World Cup today? And you got a 50-50 chance. On the day, everybody out of England's like, nope, you got a 0% chance unless you're saying it's coming home, is what they're saying. But
it's coming home. Ooh. Yeah, but yeah. So I think half the population of the UK are glued to their TV screens at the minute, So
most likely, but they'll come back.
Thanks for all
that's the nice thing about the return viewership of a live stream is that people are able to come back and watch the replay. If you do want to watch the replay, or you want to let anybody know about these and like, hey, go check this out. This is what it's all about. You can head on over at least our YouTube, our Mixer, our Facebook channels, or Twitch. So we do have VODs on all those places. Best place for watching VODs. The nice thing about Mixer is it auto plays through the it auto plays the moment that you show up at the webpage, so mixer.com/ZwiftCommunityLive. As soon as you show up there, the last broadcast we did just starts playing, actually. So you can head on over there and check it out right away. Obviously, our YouTube for VODs being the largest VOD consumption website in the world is probably a good place to go as well. All right, so they're about to head into it here. We're into a rest, though, and probably going to be taking on some recovery. We were talking about the back-to-back workouts. I actually found that for me, and this is different for everybody, and you got to kind of learn the athlete, but for me, my best work was done back-to-back. I would do 2 days in a row or even 3 days in a row and then take 2 days chill. And then I would do 2 days in a row and then 2 days, and then 2 days, not like totally chill, but it gave me more room to work with in 2 days rather than just 1 day recovery. And I usually found that it was not the next day, but 2 days after an effort that I was actually sore and tired from an effort. So it would be like tomorrow would feel good after this, and then, or maybe not good, but then once I warmed up, I was like, wow, I feel good now that I'm warmed up. I don't feel that like deep fatigue. And then it would be the second day after where it was like I might feel kind of okay, but like about 5 minutes in an interval, it's just done. I just like, I don't have anything in the tank anymore. And do you know anything? I've always wondered like why that is. It's always just kind of like this mystical thing, and like people are like, well, that's just how it is. But like, I find that a lot with most athletes that's how it is.
Yeah, and again, it probably depends a wee bit on your fitness as well. You were obviously quite fit at that time, that the next day you were sort of felt okay, and then you sort of have a onset of muscle fatigue sort of 2 days after. But yeah, it's again, a lot of people find that you're maybe not as race fit, that the next day they're absolutely dead. So yeah, but I'm a fan of doing 2 days back to back. Actually, I see it depend on, again, even with a lot of fitness levels, doing 2 days back to back and having a day off, then instead of this sort of 3 day blocks, especially for people who are working, family life balance is real difficult. I find, mentally and also physically, getting 2 days back to back bring out great adaptations more than doing 3 days, so.
Yeah. 3 is definitely pushing it into pretty high fitness levels, but back to back 2 days and then giving a little bit of rest. I always found that for some reason the 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day off, 1 day off just put me into a downhill grind where it was just like the workouts got worse and worse and worse. It just wasn't enough time, it felt like, to recover from the efforts actually with only 1 day. But we are getting into it now. This is going to be a finishing straight. So let's get into the finish today. Like, how is this replicating this finish up this climb? And do we know, what did it finish on? You were talking about this specific climb actually as it had somewhere close to your heart or something, like you actually experienced this in some way before.
So I spent about 3 years of my life probably living in and around this area. So I probably know the town quite well and knew the finish quite well. So the effort that you're doing now, this 2 minutes at threshold, isn't on the climb. This is before the climb. So we're riding to the bottom of the climb and we're riding quite solid. So we haven't hit the climb yet. So the next
Gotcha.
2 minute effort, where we're going at 104%, is the bottom of the hill. So this is us on the approach to it. You're trying to get your positioning. You're trying to get into the front of the group. Again, the fight for the bottom of the climb, like you've seen earlier on, isn't pretty. So that's what we're doing right now. So it's hard at the bottom of the climb. Then you have 2 minutes. The bottom of the hill is going to be everybody's going to start ramping up the pace. You're going up to the very top level of your threshold, so it shouldn't be too bad. But then you've got to get ready for that 1 minute explosion where, the top guys are going to go, and then you've got to get ready for your 30-second own attack going towards the finish line.
Yeah, so that's something that I definitely am not quite as experienced with in this type of racing. Like I did a little bit of road racing, I won a few races, but nothing too intense. I've actually lost the riders here for some reason. We'll see if we can get them back here. It's because my rider's not with them is the reason why. They're on their way down the volcano. And the volcano can jump around a little bit on us because a lot of the sections are right next to each other. And if I lose the riders for just a moment, we lose the interval. But we'll be able to see the interval still here as they do play out. But so I never really thought about the efforts going into the climb, though. Like, as far as the positioning and all that goes, being this hard. I mean, 300 watts. Now we're doing 315 as we start to climb, but you were saying earlier that it's so crucial. So they fought for position. Now it's going to start to ramp up, but everybody's just waiting to pounce. I mean, you're kind of like trying to not go too hard, but stay on. Trying not to go off the front, but at the same time, it's this threading the needle situation. It seems like before you're like, all right, everything I got, all in.
Yeah, this is it. And at this point as well, your heart's probably going quite hard after already. I've done a couple of minutes hard before it, so it wasn't like you've hit the climb fresh at all. And this is a very different finish to what would be considered, a sprinter's finish or whatever. And this is exactly the sort of reason why somebody like Greg Van Avermaet or Philippe Gilbert or Alpha Philippe, something like that, are really good at these finishes because they're long and drawn out. So basically, the actual finish is lasting about 2 minutes, where a sprint finish lasts 1 minute or 30 seconds. Boom, very explosive. But in this here, it's a big long drawn out effort. So.
Gotcha. So it looks like now we've got about 1 minute. We are suddenly finding ourselves in the middle of a race, more like what is most likely going on in the legs of the riders as we find ourselves in the middle of the Pain Cave Fight Night for some reason event. But it looks like it's it's a purely South African. A lot of South African flags actually jumping in there. But 3:30 now. This is just the hang on, waiting for the moment to sprint. Now 390. That's not a full-on sprint effort. Can we talk about that a little bit? What's going on there? Is that just all that's left?
That's all that's left. Because you've already done 1 minute at 3:30. You've already done 1 minute at VO2, and then you're trying to do another 30 second. It's a long drawn out sprint. So basically, you shouldn't really be able to do that much more come that stage. So it's just a long slog. I think that's the best way to put it.
Gotcha. So it's too bad we lost the riders here. 30 seconds though, 95 RPMs. So a little bit of a kick here as they make their way to the line.
This is the sprint now.
And so riders are most likely the heart rates are going to be just like flying through the roof at this point, I would assume. Trying to hang on. I would think they'd be okay with ERG mode all the way through though on this part of the effort.
Yeah, you shouldn't have too big accelerations. That's going to change the ERG mode. So
I can see why I found myself over here because, as you can see, I never actually left the pens today. I have no idea what's going on with that. I'm going to see if I can figure out why the Now I do have Zwifters. I'm gonna see if I can find Zwifters that are in this group with me. I don't see the ones that are in the group, so we are stuck over at this section. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can quit the event, and we'll just go ahead and roll around out on course here with a couple of other riders instead of sitting in the pens here. But so 5-minute cooldown now after the race. All right, let's talk a little bit about if we got any numbers or anything to look at. Let's go ahead and look at those before we get going for tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a bigger day.
Yeah.
We're going to have, I think, a lot more people joining in. And we'll have a similar course. I'm going to go ahead and grab the course for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we'll chat a little bit about what's happening with that, as well as do our predictions for tomorrow. I'd love to hear what everybody is thinking. So far, Fleeman's actually bragging a little bit in the. He's bragging a little bit in the. I got everyone correct so far that I predicted. I didn't predict stage 2, but obviously would have said Sagan. Not sure we can keep this up for the next 16 stages. That's actually pretty amazing. Like, I'm not sure. I don't know if I've so far seen anybody do that well on in past tours, actually, on predictions. So pretty solid almost.
Don't give him any bigger of a head than what he already has. So don't blow him up anymore. But tomorrow is really difficult because they have two times to go up the Mur de Bretagne, which is a Cat 3 climb. So it's a proper climb tomorrow. Today was a long drawn out sprint finish or long drawn out finish.
So this is it right here, Brest to Mur de Bretagne?
Yeah. Mur de Bretagne, and it's these climbs are pretty hard. So I can see time gaps in tomorrow's stage. Certainly even among the GC guys, people could be losing 5, 6, 7 seconds potentially between it. I know it doesn't sound a whole lot, but as the race goes along, there certainly could be a time splits tomorrow.
What's the workout difference? Because it's not going to be just a replication of today, I would think. I would think there'd be a difference with the couple big climbs up front. Well, not big climbs, but a couple climbs up front. A little flatter, but then it looks like it's just like a real kick at the end.
Real hard. So what we're doing tomorrow is we're under the pretense that tomorrow the start's going to be very hard tomorrow. So even though you're not in the early break, you're going to have to make a lot of very hard accelerations early in the stage tomorrow. So we're going to make 3 hard accelerations, again, just to stay in the bunch. You're just, you're not going anywhere other than trying to stay there, because the effort in between that and the finish is going to be 1 climb or 2 climbs we're going to be doing in the middle. Again, not super intensive, but it's going to be certainly loaded at the end with 2 climbs. Whenever we get to the finishing circuit with them 2 climbs, we're going to assume that on the first time up the climb, there's going to be a lot of attacks. So in the Mur de Bretagne, the first time up, at the bottom of it, we're going really hard. So it's going to be very aggressive at the bottom of the climb, first time up, and then it's going to patter off. Second time onto the climb, we're going to assume that it's going to be all together at the bottom of it, and it's going to be a bit like today, where it's going to ramp up and the pace is going to ramp up during it. So
it looks like
so you're doing 2 ascensions.
A pretty steep gradient. Like, just looking at it on the profile here, it looks like an insane gradient.
Yeah, I think it goes up to like maybe 10 or 11%, just in the first third of the climb as well. So yeah, it's a pretty hard climb. So yeah, it's gonna be great to watch. And again, I'm pretty sure our stage replication is going to be quite similar to what it's going to be. So.
All right, let's get the predictions then going here for tomorrow. With that kick toward the end, up to 11%. I mean, Sagan has been looking really good so far, but how much can he keep this up? That's the question. From what we've seen so far, I've been putting Sagan like on the back burner over and over again. I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to be all right. He's going to do it again. This is like the year of Sagan on these ones. I'm with him on this one. It's a serious climb though, from what you're saying, and maybe I don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit more serious than what I'm understanding, because he's not a pure climber.
No, but he can do a lot of things. I would not write him off. He's pretty good. I think it's going to be somebody like Alpha Philippe or Don Martin. So
Okay.
that's what I think. So I'm going to go with Don Martin just because Marsh, and I think he's great. So he was up there today, but maybe Alpha Philippe. So he looked pretty strong today as well. But again, just because Marsh, let's go for Don Martin. So
Dan
yep.
Martin. All right, Dan Martin it's to the post. He's put his prediction to the post. I've got mine on Sagan. Where's Fleeman with his prediction? Nothing yet. All right. Too late. Nope.
No. Too late.
We have to throw it out there, Fleeman. Let us know. Tweet it at us. Let us know. We need it on the post before the stage starts tomorrow. But love to hear what your predictions are going to be. All right, guys. That's Dig Deep Coaching stage number 5. 6 is going to be tomorrow. We're looking at something similar to this. It's going to be another hard day. And then, I don't think it doesn't sound like it's going to be letting up too much throughout all the stages. So, pick your, pick your poison here. But at the same time, if you get the good recovery, they're not too long, these workouts. You're only on the bike for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour and, 15 minutes or so. So you can get through these. And if you get enough recovery, you can do some efforts like this day after day. If you got enough fitness left, you're just getting into cycling, maybe not so much. But if you have a little bit of base in there, you can work your way through it. You can even lower your FTP on the day and just show up and for the ride too, if you just need to do that, or just lower it down on the percentages that you can bring down a little bit. So, all right, so we got the predictions out there. It looks like for tomorrow, and next up is going to be stage number 6. Steven, thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it. We'll be live tomorrow on Zwift's Facebook, just so everybody knows. We won't be on Zwift Community Live's Facebook. We'll be live on Zwift's Facebook, so there'll be a whole bunch of new people into the broadcast. Make sure to show up for that one. As always, hit all those follow buttons. Where can everybody find more information about Dig Deep Coaching and what's going on with this? Where can they sign up for this? Because I think people are still signing up. It looks like people are still asking, actually, where to sign up.
Yeah. So if you go to digdeepcoaching.com /GT 2018. We'll maybe put a link up just in the comments down below as well, so you can see it and sign up. So that'll allow you access to all our race manuals. We've got documents on your recovery strategies. Also will have you being able to access the workouts at the end of each week. So if you've missed a workout, we're going to email you all of the workouts that you have just that we just done that previous week, so you can download into your documents into your Zwift folder, and you can do them anytime. So you're doing that over the 3 weeks. You'll get all that as well in your inbox. And also, anybody who completes it, we're giving out prizes, sign up discounts, and learn more about our coaching and our global coaching company. And so.
Wow, cool. That's pretty cool. So at the end of each week, you do get an email full of all the workouts. So if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure to head on over there. And it's essentially a month of free coaching coming your way through a Grand Tour. Although it maybe isn't exactly the program you would get if you were looking just to build fitness. This is a full-on Grand Tour race program. But, I think it's been designed a little bit with some give and take there a little bit. So, all right, Steven, thanks a lot for joining us. And we will see you tomorrow. All right, so everybody, that was Dig Deep Coaching. Next up, then, we have the weekly wind-up. That's coming at you in just an hour and 15 minutes. Today, we're going to be chatting some CVR stuff, actually, as well as everything that's been going on out on Zwift. Every week, we do the weekly wind-up, which is on Wednesdays. It is essentially a show just about what's going on Zwift this week, as well as an interview with somebody from the community or from Zwift, giving you some insider information. So, we'll see you guys in an hour and 15 minutes for the weekly wind-up with me and Carissa. Cheers, as always, everybody, ride on and great work.